I'm gonna call this meeting to order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I walked out to point thirty.
We knew it was different.
All right. Looking to approve the regular session minutes of January 22nd. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second vote?
Yes.
Yes.
I can't.
Yeah, you are. All right, public comment area, period.
As per usual, I don't have a lot to say. I will say that we've had 2 academy classes come through recently, one for our peace officers and one for corrections. That kind of puts us in a sweet spot of where we need to be for being fully staffed on things, just to give you an update on stuff. But other than that, and investigating the murder on the east side, our detectives they made a couple of arrests to bring a little closer to have you. Just to give you an update on what's going on throughout the county.
Oh, this is,
Other than that, that's about it. Anything for me?
no,
Okay.
Good on that, everybody?
yeah,
Anything?
the police report.
Green and clear.
Just here to enjoy them.
I'm happy to have you.
Yeah.
All right, Brookside, anything? Well, Michelle's not here, so, unless anybody else has anything on Brookside. We did get that letter today regarding the development, or not today, but that you sent regarding the
email?
development.
Yeah, have an email I got, actually yesterday. And, I don't know what that.
I mean, I know I've seen a plan over it, but we'll just have to kind of figure out what our role in it is.
Yeah, I think that's a difficult thing to even address. I mean, it's not in the township at all.
Mhm.
Is it the development
This
across?
is like right across the street.
So we're, just to add to that, we're trying to get a meeting with ODOT in March. Because of the 161 project, we're adding to it with that, because they've done a traffic study on that development. We want a copy of it, want to explain it. Because it is right across from the entrance of a main corridor with that community, so
Okay.
the dates are out there, I can't remember the dates that they're looking at, sometime in March.
And did we get any, information back from ODOT on, the country club entrance?
Yes, we met with them, a couple months ago now, it almost feels like a couple months ago. They did a, reanalysis of traffic study, taking into the effect, potential development and something in the future. And it still does not mean, it doesn't involve traffic study. What they have come back, looked at is something that looks like a right out, some kind of turn that allows you to go east. It's weird.
Okay,
They're gonna draw it up. And they're gonna ask for a meeting.
okay,
They've done that. If you want to see that same thing, you can go up to 36, 37 and Old State. Where if you want to go towards Delaware, you have to turn and go towards Sunbury, then there's a turn lane that you get in.
You go back the other way.
oh, you do, U-turn,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what, in fact, that's what they mentioned.
yeah.
okay,
That same scenario exists up north, so.
Yeah.
If you're out and about, and you want to see what it's like,
So I asked the deputy director if they would draw it up, so we're visual people, I said, so we'd like to see what that looks like, and I'm sure a couple probably too, and staff. We would look for it.
anything else on Brookside?
No,
Worthington Hills,
No, they're, the development on, Olentangy is, the last understanding we have with ODOT is that they're not allowing an entrance on the club view. That they're gonna allow an entrance onto 315. Right now, they're arguing with the developer. They want, and ODOT wants a right in, right out. The developer wants a right in, right in, right out, and left end coming north on 315. So if you're coming north on 315, you'd be able to turn left, cross traffic into that development with no lights.
No.
That's what they're asking for. No doubt's gonna say no, so,
Playing chicken.
Yeah. Okay, Epcot Rebel.
do we have anything? I have not heard.
Nothing really going on at EPCON. The HOA requested reflectors on the utility poles down the riverside to help locate their entrance at dark. We installed those this week. Well,
Okay.
Anything else? Zoning.
We're still working with Max and his crew on the driving range. We've had some communication now, I think, with 4 of the residents who are affected by that project. They've all now received letters from the country clubs. But, we're still waiting for some certifications from the engineers on the poles and the whole process. So they're, country club's aware and all of the residents are aware that this has to go for variance. It's gonna be a stamped deal, so. And they've all asked if they're gonna have an opportunity to come and voice their opinion, so we told them absolutely.
How tall is that fence gonna be?
74 feet now,
74.
it's down a foot because of the airport.
There we go.
Nice.
Making progress.
Yeah.
1 foot at a time.
And we had a guest speaker, Joshua Rockwell, regarding a variance that was approved over in Orange Hills, but I don't see him here, so we'll maybe come back to that. But we do have another guest speaker, Eli.
I used this so I can the laptop down. Just a quick update on the salt barn. We received a letter from the structural engineer, indicating there's no structural damage to the walls that were damaged by the paving contractor. They've also given us a recommendation on how to fix the gouges that are there. No surprise there. I think we all had the same understanding in utilizing 2-part epoxy to fix that. They did include a recommendation of essentially cutting out or making the gouges a little deeper, up to 1/8 of an inch, so that epoxy has a better chance at bonding with the wall, and then you guys won't have any repairs down the road. So that the contractor has informed us that he's reached out to a subcontractor for the concrete. Imagining it's the same individual that did the concrete walls. And they will be in, they'll schedule that, let us know when it could be done, and then they'll be in to do that, per the spec or the drawing that the structural engineer drew up. So that'll be addressed. The other issue we had was the gate. They sent us a shop drawing, both myself, John, and I, and went through it. We made some recommendations, I'll read those out. One of them was adding 2x3 runners instead of attaching them or top conning them directly into the metal frame. The other one was we recommended for them to use tube instead of angle iron. He's replied back to that and he said that he'll have his fabricator give him a pricing on doing that. And then he'll make a determination from that reason, essentially. I will say I've reached out to a couple individuals who do welding and framing, and they've both indicated that the angle iron would be sufficient, but the tubing would be just an extra reinforcement.
Eli, I apologize. Stop.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you said meaning the contractor, is going to make the determination. What determination? He's going to make the determination? Pardon my frustration for this
Yeah.
contractor, because we've had nothing but trouble. Okay, this has not gone as smoothly as we want it to be.
Absolutely.
I would hope that he would, at this point in time in our relationship, recognize that he should go above and beyond because his reputation obviously is on the line as well.
Yeah.
And so if he's gonna come back on the cheap on us again,
Mhm.
we have more problems, and that's just gonna create more problems. At the end of the day, we're holding that money back.
Yes,
We're holding for a reason. Because we value the quality of this project. And it hasn't hit that mark yet. So for all the things that we've had to do, and I know he had to do some things.
Yeah.
For all the things we had to do and shouldn't have had to do. We're gonna bill him and say, hey, this is the deal.
yes,
We spent all this time and all this money and effort. We're not paying you all this now. So, and I know I said this to him before.
yeah.
So I would just hope that he would go above and beyond at this point in time in our relationship.
Completely agree with you. That's why we made the recommendations, but I have to be honest with you. Those are recommendations. I can't tell him means and method. The angle iron is sufficient to carry the weight of the gates that we have. Yes, the square tubing is better, but I can't tell him means and method because I did not have that on my scope of work. I did not have a square tube on that scope of work saying, I need you to do this gate with this square tube, this thickness, this brace on it. We left that up to the contractor.
Well, we also didn't have the scope of work saying, please give us a piece of shit for a gate.
Absolutely.
So
Okay.
is the issue that the scope of work wasn't detailed enough? Is that what you're saying?
Sure.
Okay,
The scope of work wasn't detailed enough in regards to that. And the reason for that was that we were trying to value engineer the project to meet the amount of money that we had assigned or allocated for said project. But I do agree with you. The gate that was initially done, and I think everyone that looked at it was under the same understanding, including himself when he came and talked to us, agreed that it wasn't up to par. It wasn't what we would expect. I will say that from the research I've done and from the individuals I've talked to, the angle iron is sufficient and it is industry standard for a gate of that.
Eli, did he address the wheel?
He did address the wheel. I'll get to that. We have a wheel that I believe is spec for a 500-pound limit. It looks like it's something that'll definitely be able to hold each of its gates. I have no issue with that. He also addressed the barrel hinges. He provided some information on those. Those each hold 900 pounds. If I remember correctly, we having 3 of them. Once again, I think that's pushing above and beyond what's needed on the gate, but I think it'll be beyond sufficient. The one thing that we don't have clear clarification on, I talked to him on the phone, and said his fabricator would draw something up, is how they're going to attach the existing barrel hinges to the 6x6 posts that we have outside. My understanding, now don't quote me on this, it was just a phone conversation. My understanding is that there will be a brace that'll go around the entire 6x6 post, and then they will attach that to the post. And it'll be welded to one of the barrel hinges. How barrel hinges work is you have a top part, you have a bottom part, you kind of drop them in. I've used them before on different gates. Not one this size, but I've used them on metal gates, I've used them on wooden gates. Never had an issue with them. They're extremely strong and I think are up to the job of what we needed to do.
Okay.
The last recommendation I had was on there was a brace that was a flat piece of iron essentially. We indicated that would need to be a 2 brace because we think that's gonna be holding a lot of the stress of the gate on there. But I do think that with that frame and with the wheel, it should work correctly. And then having the wood attached to the frame and then having each of the panel attached to that wood, I think would also be beneficial for the durability of the gate itself.
Would it certainly make it easier if those slats need to be replaced?
Yes,
Don't get-
absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think, I mean, from the conversation I had with individuals who've done gates and or fabricators, they've mentioned like you'll probably be able to, if it gets bumped into or something, your frame's not gonna be damaged. With 3 of those barrel hinges, you're not gonna have any issue. You'll probably have to replace some of the wooden board panels and call it a day. The gate will function properly.
Did he give you any indication how he was going to attach the wheel? We talked about putting a plate on there and.
So
holding
the wheel that was sent on the email, has a plate on it. We did not talk about how they would do it, but it has a pretty long, I guess you could call it kind of like a horseshoe, screws to it. So it has 2 of them and they're able to go through the wood and through the metal if need be.
Okay,
Whether that's that flat iron, not the flat iron, whether that's the angle iron or the, square, tubes that we recommend.
I just wanna make sure they're not gonna weld the wheel.
Yeah,
So
no, I don't think it'll be welded. It has a plate that then you would put the screws through.
Okay.
So that way it could be replaced if needed.
Yeah, that's my concern for maintenance down the road.
Well, I think it needs to be screwed to be able to be adjusted if,
Yeah, but that's where we're at. The other piece that we need to discuss with him is, and it's something that we kind of left for once the repairs are done, is our expectations of the paint around the exterior of the building. So that is a discussion that we still need to make sure he.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And that's our intent, is to make sure he gets that, but right now, I've been focusing the energy, we'll call it, into making sure we can get the wall fixed correctly.
Got it.
And once we do that, when we gotta pick a color, we'll then determine what the product's gonna be, and then what that color is going to be.
Oh, my God, a color. Well, there's only one person on the board who can pick colors, so,
Yeah.
so, well, yeah, let's.
Well, I never
the
pick
gate
colors,
and the-
I leave that to my
And the
wife.
fixing, and we'll get to that. Okay,
Yeah, but that's where we are. For the fabrication of the gate, we haven't released it yet,
Mhm.
per se. I wanna see what he tells us about the metal, too. And that's really all that's kind of left lingering is he gonna use the tube or is he going to use that angle iron? Once we determine that, then we will release them to go ahead and build it. And I asked him, what would the lead times be? He said his fabricator will probably need at least a week, because they would have to go buy the tubing and then be able to get it on schedule to get it welded there. It's not a specialized, it's not like we're welding aluminum or something like that, so I think that they should be able to go through that pretty quickly. But he did say it would probably be a week from when we approve the shop drawings.
One last question on the gate. Once it's fabricated, will it be painted before the wood is put on? Or will there be a coat of primer on there?
I believe there's a coat of primer on it. He did mention that in the conversation I had with him and his fabricator.
Okay.
And it's just a paint that they use for metal.
Right.
Typically, it's that red one you see, or
Right.
some looking one.
I just wanna make sure there's something on it before we get the wood on it.
Right, no, definitely. Yeah, and I believe that, so we require that they bolt the wood to that frame. And then they put the actual wood panels for the gate on those runners that we have here.
Right.
And he was okay with doing all of that, so. And all right, so I'm hoping here within the next 2 weeks, weather. If the weather allows us, today would have been a great day if you could have had this concrete guy do the epoxy, because the weather was 40 and rising. But we'll look at that. There are things they can do. They can prep the surface and warm up the surface so that it gives them a better chance at the epoxy actually adhering properly to the wall.
well, Ian is in charge of the weather, I told him today.
Yeah.
Thank you for the nice
I'm
weather.
gonna be calling you all the time now.
Let's see if we can make that.
Whenever I have a day off, I'm gonna call you because I'll need to go. Any other questions or concerns in regards to where we're at right now?
Bless you.
Thank Thank you.
It was good.
Bring it down. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Very much.
Again, on to the road department, new business.
For new business, I'd like to ask the board's approval to, continue using Woods Landscaping, this year to do the turf and bed maintenance here at the complex, the cemetery, and the last couple of years I've had the curbs, the gutters in Worthington Hills, sprayed to try to kill the weeds. Some of those weeds are leading to more deterioration up there. So I'd like to continue to use them this year.
Just a couple of things. First of all, has this gone up in price?
Just a couple $100 since I've got.
Okay. And I know that we were spraying the weeds in the gutters and curbs area to prevent the deterioration. How many times did we do it last year versus how many times are we gonna do it this year?
We did it 2 times last year.
Okay,
They charge us per time.
okay,
It's not like the 1333 they have quoted here. It's broke down into 3 visits.
okay.
Last year they only did it twice.
And this is Tom Wood's old business, but
This is-
obviously they got bought out and
Yeah,
it was purchased.
they sold it early last year, I believe.
We tried using the new iteration of Woods, now that it's been bought by Mr. Mulch, right? So
It is Mr.
Ohio
Mulch.
Mulch.
How'd that go?
On our entrances, and they were for the Civic, and they were so bad, we ended up having to withhold payment until they cleared it. I'm not saying that's your issue, I'm just saying that's the issue we
Yeah,
had.
go ahead.
We had issues, wasn't last year, it was the year before, or it might have been early, it was 2023. We had issues, one of their sales reps didn't turn in the contracts when I submitted them, left them in his email, so we didn't get put on the schedule right away. When I talked to them, I found out that he had an issue with a lot of contracts over there and was let go because of it.
And maybe some of that is part of the issue we had. I mean, they ended up, that's what took us so long to rebuild our insurance. Is there any of this work that we're able to do ourselves, or is this all
This is all turf application. I mean, they do
with like the
The spraying.
landscape beds and all of that?
The reason we don't do the spraying,
none of us are licensed to spray the weed killer or put on fertilizers. That's why they do all that, and the bed maintenance just includes,
Weeding and pruning and,
it's broke down into 12 visits. I think that in the contract, it's right around 1,700, like $140 per visit. They're here almost half a day when they're doing the beds.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve, or authorize the roads department to enter into contract with Wood Landscaping Service LLC for an amount not to exceed $4,900.
Second, vote,
Yes.
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 Thank you. The second part of the agenda was the landscaping, the hedgerow along the south side of the parking lot, west side of the new entrance. I was just putting it out there. I reached out to Oakland Nursery, had them quote the hedges that was grown up by EMI last year, with us purchasing the materials and doing it ourselves. And this is that's just so you guys had the numbers and.
I would just looking between the taxes and the sea greens, I would try to go with the sea greens just because they're a lot more hardy with salt and the cold. The only thing that makes me nervous with the taxes is if we get like this, like a year like we had last year, where you get like super warm and all of a sudden we just get that cold, it'll it'll die back. You
Oh, I-
know, you get, so the sea greens, like I use them all the time in Dublin. And they are, the only issue is as they get bigger,
Yeah,
they get really hard to prune back, but
but
we got some space.
it's kind of how what EMI talked about,
Do we have a,
the,
go ahead.
the east side of the driveway here. All this from the front door here to the entrance is going to be the taxes.
Is that required?
Everything that EMI, that's what they've got
It's in their.
on their specs already,
Okay,
and from what I've seen, ordered,
and that's what the hospital's building, putting.
that is what the hospital is putting in on the east side of the entrance. And I was trying to match, I did get prices for the sea green juniper through.
The question, are they responsible for maintaining and keeping them trimmed and all that other stuff, or once they plant them, they're ours?
Most likely not.
Okay,
That's a good question.
I like the idea.
and I don't like the red oaks, but I mean, especially 3.5, because red oaks have to be planted at a certain time of the year. And they never are, and they always have problems, so, I mean, at least they'll have to, especially a 3.5-inch caliper. Those things could go 2 years and 3 years before they, die. So,
It goes beyond the.
but if they're utilizing them for tree replacement, then it's gonna be on the hospital. We gotta dig into this a little bit.
Oh, that's fine.
Because, and all I'm saying, has nothing to do with like the cost or anything like that, but it has to dig into like who ultimately is gonna be on the hook, because if these red oaks die and we're on the hook for a 3.5-inch caliper red oak, that's gonna hurt. And that's all I'm saying down the road to have to maintain those. I don't like red
I
oak.
agree with him on that part.
Yeah.
What Ian is working on is, so